Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show and welcome to Makeover Monday. Woo! I got a lot to make over, Kaustubha, because I've been eating Mara's cooking all week. Eat to this point where I say that magic mantra, what am I doing? What have I done?
Oh, you went too far, you mean?
Well, I went too far. It all started with the leftovers last night when I started digging through my fridge and realized that, Mara had some leftovers she packed me. So anyway, nice. We had an incredible weekend. First of all, I want to say thanks for everybody who came out to the farm and got to meet us. You know, it was interesting because all the Zoomers showed up and it was like, oh, that's Greg DeGasu. Oh, that's Charles David Wilson, Lori Pag, and these people. It's almost like I feel like we hang out every day, which in one sense we do. But like Zoom doesn't give you an accurate, 100% accurate picture of the person. So when you see them, you're like, oh, you're taller, you're shorter, you're bigger, you're smaller. Your face looks like this. I thought it looked like slightly like that. You know what I mean?
I was like, Banjo Mike. Oh, you're taller than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, Banjo Mike. I thought he was a little short guy. He's huge.
It's the angle of the camera, you know?
Yeah. And then Ellie was there, Mara's sister. Mara was there. Mara came in on a palanquin.
Mara, first, let's just stop right there with Mara. Mara, we got to give her super props for the weekend.
Right? She just worked the entire weekend.
And she produced, her and her team just like were pumping out like incredible quality prasad the entire time.
Food cooked with love. Offered with love, prepared with love, and served with love.
And everyone's demanding a cookbook. Mara, when's the cookbook?
When's the
I'll start working on it.
What's that?
I'll start working on it.
Okay.
Come on.
There's an audience out there.
You've got nothing to do. You're just sitting around sipping tea with your sis. Richard O showed up. He couldn't eat the prasad. He was on a juice fast.
Okay.
I appreciate that. I appreciate when people are like, I'm cleansing right now. Tried giving him some of those vegan meatballs. He wouldn't take them. Anyway, it was a great weekend. I'm a little.
There's a wedding too. It was like two things. There's two weddings.
And then there was two weddings.
Raghunath was wearing a suit.
I was wearing a suit
and a tie.
I don't look good in a suit. I don't look good in a suit, sadly.
You look fine.
Especially because I never wear them, so I'm wearing a suit that like I've either muscularly or chubbily grew out of. You know, it's like I need to get on that juice cleanse. But whatever it is, either I'm building muscles or building other stuff. But
you look good.
I popped out of that suit, popping at all seams. And
then you led that wedding, the first wedding, the Western style wedding.
Yeah, it was great. It was a Christian wedding. It was a Catholic wedding.
And then you switched it up and you came on for the Vedic wedding.
More comfortable in a dhoti, you know, because you can loosen them according to your belly size.
Right.
They get looser or tighter. They're comfortable like anything. Had that big chutter on. We were out. It was cold out, but it was beautiful in the forest. Both weddings were in the forest. Mm-hmm. And Rachel and Jeff were very inspirational. What an inspirational couple they are. great
Unbelievable.
people.
Unbelievable people.
Yeah. So if you want to get married, we'll do it for you. You
Mhm.
just look on that Zoom screen. Pick anyone you want. We'll arrange it for you. Just pick somebody. It was just, it's just good to come together with like-minded souls in an atmosphere of, I want to go deeper into my spiritual life.
Nobody's
want
bringing
to-
any bad vibes.
No,
Nobody's
no,
obsessing about negative stuff.
no. A lot of the retreat was just getting to meet people, getting to, and I think it's important, this whole thing we always say about community is super important because community gives accountability. And accountability means, hey, the community, it's not like I lift the community. I lift when someone's down and they lift when I'm down. And there's just sort of like an accountability on behavior, action, speech, right? When I'm talking to Kaustubha, I'm on my A game, right? I don't want to, it's just like if you have kids, you want to say the right things around your kids. You don't want to, you're not cursing around your kids. You're not acting like a derelict around your kids. You have to, as soon as you have kids, matter of fact, you almost like, oh, okay, I got to up my game here. But the same thing is true when we have a community. It forces us to keep that standard high, especially if the community is all about raising our standards. So community is important.
It was nice. You know who we also got to give props to? David Charles Wilson
David Charles Wilson and Vegan Trucks.
and Vegan Trucks.
They were just working it all weekend.
They were. Actually, it was funny because the photographer for the weddings was a friend of Rachel and Jeff, I guess. I assume he was a friend, right? Because he was around the whole time.
Yeah.
And so I think
Texas.
After we spoke at the Vedic wedding, he got a little interested in the whole philosophy,
I love when that happens.
And so then,
like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So then Saturday, right. So Saturday night, I walked into the kitchen. It was just him and me alone, and he started asking questions, inquiring, And so then I just started trying to explain things, and he's going deep. He's like, "Hold it, this is some important stuff. We got to go deep into this. I got a lot of questions." And then as we were starting to get right into the virtual reality, he was like, "Are we in the same virtual reality, or how do you get out?" And then
he's like, "I've been waiting for these questions my entire life."
Yeah, and then you're right. And then, but then he was on call. He had to go take some photographs. So then I never got a chance to speak with him the next day. And then
Sean Murphy said he was up to midnight with him.
Well, that's where I'm going.
I just spoiled it, right?
No, you didn't spoil it. But so then, as I was about to leave, I'm about to get in the car to leave yesterday afternoon. I saw him again, and he said, "Oh, hey, just like." I said something like, we never had a chance to finish our conversation. He said, "Oh yeah, but hey, it's good. And hey, all due respect, but that guy, the vegan trucker, he just explained everything for me. Like you were like, just it was a little bit like it's too far out, but he just brought it right down to my level, and I understood everything. Vegan trucker guy, he's like,
vegan trucks." Yeah, it was great.
He's like, you were like trigonometry or something like that, but the vegan trucker, he just like he gave it to me just so that I could understand. I was like, all right, man. Trucks.
Krishna tags people to speak to you. I really find that to be true. Well, I enjoyed your company. I've realized something about Kaustubha too. Kaustubha, he just comes. He just comes out, does his thing, and it goes back in. And he comes out, and he goes back in. And he comes out, he goes back. It's almost
cold.
like
it was cold outside right now. It's freezing cold.
No,
the
it's
whole
like
time.
it's like pranayama. It's like permaculture. You distribute and then you hold, and you distribute and you hold. Okay. You know how to conserve energy. I think I have a lot of leaks in my energy field. I'm like,
but you just got so much. That's the point. You see, you've got more energy than I've got. You've got this cup of power pitta thing going.
Pitta power.
So you can just be throwing that energy like all over the place. I got to conserve it a little bit, especially with, and again, props to Mara, because like Raghu, like I can depend on him to nourish me in so many ways, but like when it comes to food, he's not going to nourish me at all. So when you're staying at a place for 4 days and you got no food, it's like,
I tell you, I could just get into like.
I told him I could write a Cro-Mag song about trying to survive in Raghunath's house. It's like there's no food. It's like freezing cold.
Well, there's tons of food. It's just like he doesn't eat He has a strict diet of what he eats, and I really appreciate that. He won't eat food cooked by non-devotees.
I'm eating food.
So that means I have to do all this cooking for him,
and you don't cook.
and I don't cook.
That's why I was struggling for
Well,
survival.
I usually like fast till noon, or I'll, what do you call it? You know, my kids will have a bowl of cereal in the morning, so I'm not eating all morning. So Costu was like, "What's for breakfast?" I was like, "Nothing. Nothing's for breakfast. I can make you some toast. I don't eat that toast. Mara, can you make some bread for Kaustubha? He doesn't eat toast."
I had a loaf of bread. I felt like I was like in like the, you know, in
Oliver
some kind
Twist.
of like city that's, you know, that's been you know, nothing left but rubble, and I'm like walking around with like a loaf of bread.
I like give him something, give him a bottle of olive oil too. It was like that. It was like taking care of Kaustubha. He's like, no maintenance means like the highest maintenance.
Anyway, I got this delivery of like unbelievable sushi, this huge thing, a plate of like 60 vegan sushis.
Yeah.
And then I indulged in that the first night I got there, and then I was gonna she like Mara provided that I was gonna survive off it the whole weekend, and then the next morning I found out that Raghunath and Vegan Trucks hit that thing up, and almost nothing left. Like, oh man, sushi. Let's eat them all.
Truck demolished the leftovers. Kaustubha had like 7 of them. We're 2-hand eating them, dipping them. The whole thing's a mess. Put it back in the fridge. Oh my God. Sorry.
Anyway, it was a good weekend, and Mara kept me alive. So.
Someone says all these people, it sounds like a cartoon. It is a cartoon. All these people are like cartoon characters come to life.
It's true.
Makeover Monday. Whew.
You know, we gotta keep moving here because we gotta get to the bottom time. But I think we should also talk a little about Patreon, because there's gonna be a lot happening on Patreon this week, because we recorded stuff from the weekend, and there's also just a ton of stuff anyway, right? Mara, what's happening on Patreon this week?
Today we have an asana class by Claire Weatherly at 10 a.m.
Claire Weatherly, awesome.
And we have our usual asana classes going on. And then on Saturday, Lauren Baptiste is offering a special Ayurveda workshop for the Vata season.
Oh, wow.
All right, well, for the Vata season.
Yeah, so it'll be a 2-hour workshop on Saturday morning. So I'll post the details of that also.
This is when a lot of people get sick at this time, right?
Yeah, exactly, with the changing of the
seasons. Changing of the season.
And then there's also a Bhakti recovery group meeting today at 1 p.m.
Okay. And then, you know, we have like, I did a class on, you know, a lot of people for a long time, they've been asking about a home worship kind of course. So I did something, you know, over the weekend. So I'll try to post that today. I think I'll be able to post that today. That was kind of step 1, just how to do arti. And we got Sweet Baby Krishna from Raghunath from the weekend. We have a question and answer session. So different stuff to be going up, you know, we'll be posting that this week. So we were gone for the weekend. We took a long break. For us, it was a huge break, right? Yeah. I think we went something like 55 days without a break.
And then we did 3 days in a row.
And then we went down for 3 days in a row.
I wonder if anybody felt lost in their world wandering around without.
I don't know. I don't know if they're that dependent on us right now.
Well, they should be. They should be. They should feel lost.
Jolly Lama said he was watching reruns. We were wondering, where's the Jolly Lama?
Right. Yeah, we actually asked about him too. Yeah. All right.
Ready to get into it?
Yes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2. We started our new chapter, right?
No, not yet.
No, Purusha Sukta to confirm we're still on this?
Yeah, we could finish it today if we do 2 verses.
Okay. What's the verse, Prabhu?
We are on the second to last verse.
Second to last verse.
Okay.
43.
40, I think it's 43 through 45, and then there's 46.
Hey, I forgot to mention, Damodar Swarup's telling me, I'm going to be in Tucson.
When?
In November. Damodar Swarup, can you tell the people when, please? November 7th, that's what it is. November 7th and 8th. If you're in the Tucson area, come on down. And looking forward to meeting all you
Tucsonites.
Californians. who come to Tucson and Arizonians.
I think you're the only person in the world that refers to someone from Tucson as a Californian, but
It's the time zone factor.
yeah, I mean, that's not what qualifies a person as being
It means
a
you can't get up for the
Californian.
5 a.m. wisdom of the sages. Okay, so we have Brahma speaking
Yes.
right now.
He's wrapping up the chapter here.
Okay, so he says, I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and
I just realized something. You're going to like this verse, Raghunath. You're going to like where it
Yes,
goes.
I know. This is the one I was hoping to get to last week.
Okay.
Because it's all about aliens.
Yeah, why don't you
Great
start over?
generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narada and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Burloka planets.
Upper
So
planetary
that's our
systems.
planetary system, right? Burloka.
No, that's the higher.
Oh, Boo Loka.
Boo.
The leaders of the earthly planets. That's our
Yes. There you
system.
go.
Isn't that interesting? There's other earthly planets.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
mid-level.
Yeah, mid-level. The leaders of the Gandharva planets. These are higher places. The
Good
leaders
music
of the
there on the
Vidyadhara
springs.
planets, other higher places. The leaders of the Charna planets, other higher places. The leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshasas, and Uragas. Those are lower planets.
Mhm.
The great sages, the great demons. Like the great demons?
Great doesn't mean like you necessarily like them. Right? It just means
They're great.
influential and powerful.
Influential. Okay. The great atheists. He's a great atheist.
It's one of the best.
Isn't that interesting? There's like great atheists out there, like powerful atheists.
Now it's
And
about to get interesting.
here it goes. And the great, now this isn't me saying it. This is Prabhupada saying it in the purport. And the great spacemen.
Spaceman, people that travel
Right?
around space. Maybe that means they're kind of like nomads in all this, right? We've been hearing about different
What are those
people that
Star Wars
exist on
nomads called?
different planets, but like I think by spaceman he means someone that's traveling a lot through the universe.
There's, I guess, beings that can travel between planets.
Yeah.
I didn't call it aliens, but as well.
No,
as
you did. You did. Nobody else did.
As
You
well
called them
as
aliens.
dead. Listen. The purport
Okay.
continues. As well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, the
Satans.
Satans, the jinns. What's a Mara? Can you look up jinn? I'd like to know.
I
the
looked up Jin,
actual
yeah.
Merriam-Webster.
You're gonna love it, Raghunath, when you get into the Jin. You could go on and on about the Jin.
They spell jinns different. I thought jinn was spelled with it.
All right. It's an intelligent spirit of lower rank than the angels, able to appear in human and animal forms and to possess humans.
Shapeshifter.
It's all real. This stuff's all real.
Thank you for sharing that.
The Kushmandas, the great aquatics, the great beasts and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be specific truth and the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. So basically they're saying everything you could ever imagine and even things you can't even imagine. First of all, it's interesting to think that there's so many things out there because we're only seeing the things that we see. We're not seeing the things that we can't see, but there's levels of beings. And it's not just random, like, oh, there's a ghost. There's like levels of ghosts, different ghostly beings. There's levels of higher beings. You know, a Judeo-Christian culture would say angels, but they say specifically these races of what we would call angels, like higher spiritual beings. Or just like when you think of an angel, you think of a guy with a trumpet and wings. Gandharvas, this is what they do. They have wings and trumpets. And these siddhas, perfected beings, these Christ-like figures who have their own planets. It just goes into so much interesting detail here. Then they're saying, and you like your planet? There's millions of them. There's millions of other earthly planets where people are just like mediocre, but they have an opportunity to get out of mediocrity. That's where we're at. What do you think, Kaustubha?
Yeah,
We're just mediocre.
If we're gonna get into this bog time, it's gonna kind of encourage us to expand our imagination a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Frankly admit that our scope is very limited. True?
It's incredibly limited. All you have to do, we did this analogy last week. You just have to get on your knees and look in the grass, and then you see, oh wow, there's a whole little society of bugs living here, and they're all, these ants are carrying a giant wasp, and they're all walking this wasp down to their home with their other ants. And if you look into different societies are going on like right around us,
There's a lot of far out stuff. A lot of far out stuff going on.
There's bird wars going on regularly. If you just look up bird battles.
Okay. So you're saying that if we just slow down a little bit and look at what's going on, even that we can perceive that these things aren't necessarily so far out and unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that what you're saying?
certain things that are right in front of our face that I'm stepping over the ant war that's going on, the bird battle. I'm just driving past it, not even looking up. I'm not looking in the pond today, but there's like salamander versus snake. Reality. That's their reality. All the salamanders in the pond where we did the wedding yesterday, they're all thinking, there's that snake, right? And then the frogs. Oh, those frogs. And that's how they're thinking. And that's their whole universe. And to them, we're not even in the picture at all. It's hard to understand like that, but there's so many different subjective realities. Then there's higher being subjective realities. And then, of course, then there's absolute reality, which contains all realities. Enter Lord Vishnu.
Okay.
Very
And so this verse, it's kind of echoing, you could say, like verses from the Bhagavad Gita or whole sections from the Bhagavad Gita, right? And the way that it ends reminds me a lot of the end of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where it says they are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. So Brahma is speaking to Narada. Narada had asked him, it seems like you're the creator of everything. Did I get that right? And Narada saying, no. Actually, I'm, my potency, my power, my ability to create and so on, it's just a fragment of the Lord's potency. It's not even mine, right? But it's just like the Lord's power working through me. And it's just a small, tiny fragment of what he's got. I know from your perspective, it looks like I'm all powerful, but your scope is limited, right?
Right.
And so he's saying, and so wherever you're seeing power, wherever you're seeing something great, and he gives a whole list of just all kind of beings, and they all have some sort of influence or some sort of power. He's saying, just understand that's going back. It all goes back to a source. And so this is the point. Why don't we read some of this commentary and then maybe talk a little bit Bhagavad Gita too? Sound good? I'll read a little bit from the commentary.
You
just
go.
get started. Those in this list given above, including the jinn, including the spacemen, including all these interesting characters. The jinn, I never heard that. That sounds like, is that a Christian term? It must be something like that.
There's a great book on New Delhi called The City of Jinns.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's about this kind of jinn?
No, it's sort of like a history of New Delhi. Very interesting book.
But it's the same word, jinn?
Yeah, same book. Genie-ish being.
Okay. So those in the list given above, beginning from the name Brahmaji, from Lord Brahma himself, the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, and other powerful demigods, men, supermen, sages, rishis, and other lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence, including the dead bodies. I don't know exactly, the Satans, evil spirits, jinn, aquatics, birds, beasts. They may appear to be the Supreme Lord, but factually, none of them is the Supreme Lord. Every one of them possesses only a fragment of the great potencies of the Lord. Just a fragment. The less intelligent person is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomena, right? We see some material phenomena like, whoa. As the Aborigines are fearful of a great thunderbolt, a great and gigantic banyan tree, or a great lofty mountain in the jungle. For such undeveloped human beings, merely the slight display of the Lord's potency is captivating. And we're all like that. This is the point I think Prabhupada's getting to, is like we might see, like Aboriginal people become kind of like worshiping like a tree or something like that. And they're thinking, this is it, right? Look at this. Look at the power of this thing. But we know that, that's a tree, and there's a lot of power beyond a tree,
Stubji, can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
I'm thinking like there's a lot of like religions or spiritual that just concentrate on studying these lower beings, right? Or studying these ghostly beings, or studying these higher beings, or new age.
I'm sorry, who's studying them?
Just like sort of like new agey religions where you're into
Okay.
channeling a particular
Yeah.
siddha or perfected being, and this guy speaks through me and he gives revelations of what to do, or they channel some lower being, or the worship of demons, or dark forces.
Mhm.
But they're basically all within the material world. Or like
Yeah.
I have a spirit guide. They're all within this material realm. Bhagavatam recognizes all this, but starts talking about a transcendental realm, something that's out of all three systems, planetary.
Yes. Actually, Prabhupada's going to go there in this commentary, Raghunath. Just you watch. You ready?
Yeah.
He says, a still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Right? So like, I'm not just blown away by a thunderbolt or a tree, but I'm realizing that there are higher beings on higher planets that have greater powers.
I just want to add. So it's not like that's not part of the Vedic system either. You can also, within the Vedic system, there's information into worshiping of demons, worshiping of higher beings, where there's complete information in that. But it's the Bhagavatam, and this is why they call the Bhagavatam the cream of Vedic literature. It's like the essence of it is not just to get some power, some Shakti, some siddhis, from some blessings, some benedictions. It's to actually transcend the whole thing, because ultimately everything of it, all of it, right? What's that great verse? Brahma bhuvana loka puna arvartino arjuna. You know that one?
Mamupecha tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate.
From the highest planet in the material world, Krishna says in the Gita, highest planet to Brahma's planet to the lowest planet. They're all temporary. They're all planet. Why? Because you have to give up everything you have. How does that end? That verse. From the highest planet.
Punarjanmana vidyate, but if you return to him, you never have to return again. Okay. So you look dissatisfied.
Okay.
Okay. So now he goes on. A still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in creation of the Lord, without any factual information of the Lord himself, are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the great powers. So like these worshippers of, like, say, Durga or Kali, they're called Shaktas. I mean, once it's Shakti means because that's that female Shakti or energy coming from God. But it's also just saying that I'm worshiping not the source of the energy, but the energy.
Sure.
Right? Bhagavatam's saying, go back to the source of the energy. Don't just be captivated by the energy itself, but understand that it's all coming from the source. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in the creation of the Lord, without any factual information of the Lord himself, are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the great powers. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of natural phenomenon, and therefore is also a Shakta. Interesting, right?
The modern scientist is a Shakta. Interesting.
Shakta. They're studying the energy, but they're not the energetic source of the energy. These lower grade persons gradually rise to become Saryas, or worshippers of the sun god. Yes. Or Ganapatyas, worshippers of the mass of people, as the Janata Janardana, or the Daridra Narayana, etc., in the form of Ganapati. That's Ganesh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
And then they rise to the platform of worshiping Lord Shiva in search of the ever-existing soul, and then to the stage of worshiping Lord Vishnu, the super soul, without any inference. So it's describing layers, strata of understanding, like there's a higher power, there's still a higher power, there's still a higher power, there's still a higher power.
Well, if you
And
think
they,
about one of these National Geographic shows or something where you're studying aardvarks or wallabies or ants, and there's scientists who specifically study ant colonies or bee colonies, and they're all about honeybees, the honeybee, the wasp. And they get into it and they can know everything, and they figured out the whole society of the honeybees and how it works, and the ants, and these are the ants that go get the food, and these are the ones that create, and they'll never stop, and they're just trying to dig her deeper and deeper and go more inside, and they're still studying the energy and not the source of the energy.
Mm.
And so it probably gets to a point like, well, where's instinct coming from? Where is the source of it? So there's a dead end if you just stop at the material, and you'll never know. You'll never figure out the brain of an ant, even though we can get more and more deeper and study them for lifetimes. But where is the instinct coming from, or the inspiration for the ant to search for food or build a colony or work together? There's no rebel ants, the nonconformist ants. Why not? Why do they all work so good together? I can stomp on, if someone steps on their ant trail, it's like they don't even take a break. They're just like, okay, well, back to work, recreate that ant trail. No, the ants are never thinking like, oh crap. They're not upset at all. They're just back to work. So why? What is driving them? We haven't even got to the source of where is that deep spiritual or that internal dharma of the bug, of the honeybee, where's that coming from anyway? And that's when you finally get exhausted with it, then you start to search out the soul. And it was saying here, it was pretty interesting. It says you go from the studying the phenomenal world, and then you start to study this numinous world, this world. Okay, what is Lord Shiva? What is the soul? That's pretty interesting.
You're going higher, higher, higher. Then it says you even get to Lord Vishnu, right? They come to the stage of worshiping Vishnu, the super soul, but then he says, but without any information of Govinda, Lord Krishna, who is the origin of Lord Vishnu, right? So then you get back to the cause of all causes, right? He says, then Prabhupada later in the purport says, when the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship him alone, where does he do that?
Say that again. I cut out.
When the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship him alone.
Napunya Devata Bhakta, that one.
I wasn't thinking of that. I was just thinking of a more famous one.
I like the obscure.
1866, right?
1866. Sarvadhamam Parityaya Mam Ekam Saranam Braja.
Mam Ekam, just me.
Just me, please.
Just me. Mam Ekam Saranam Braja. So he says, and now that to a lot of our ears is going to sound like, well, why do you have to be like, why just you? Why not Lord Shiva? And why not these other characters? But Prabhupada says, when the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship him alone, it is to be understood that worshiping Lord Krishna includes all that is mentioned, because he, Lord Krishna, includes everyone.
Sure.
So this is the point I think that we have to speak on now, right? Is that Krishna is saying that I'm the root of it all. He'll say that I'm the seed or that I'm the root of all existence. And so that's important information. Just like if you're a I don't know, botanist or someone into studying plants and things like that, you have to understand that. I mean, most botanists will understand this, but like if you're trying to take care of a plant,
Using a botany analogy,
you have to know
where he goes with this one, Mara.
It's a simple one. It's not, but you have to know that it's the root that needs to be fed, right? And so this fundamental knowledge of Krishna being the root of all existence, Krishna will go great lengths to explain these things in the Gita, 7th chapter, 10th chapter. When you see this, think of me, because I'm the one behind it, right? I'm the taste of water, I'm the light of the sun, I'm the light of the moon. 7th chapter goes into these, 10th chapter goes into these verses, because the idea is that where are we going to place our attention? Where are we going to place our affection? Where are we going to place our interest? All living beings tend to be captivated by any display of opulence or power, and we get caught up in it, and we end up focusing our energy where it's not most efficient for our own well-being, right? So what are people caught up in right now? They're caught up in this whole election. They're getting caught up in this celebrity or this particular event or this idea or cause or something like that. But what Krishna is saying is, I'm behind it all. I'm behind even the sun. I'm behind the moon. I'm behind water. When you drink water, how should that affect your consciousness or where your mind or attention goes? Krishna's saying, wherever you see something powerful or opulent, and that's the 10th chapter. 10th chapter is, it's almost like this verse that we just read from Bhagavatam. It's almost like the 10th chapter is kind of a condensed form of the 10th chapter. Where it begins with some really interesting stuff, right? The opulence of the absolute. Should we read a little bit of the 10th chapter?
Yeah, love the 10th chapter.
So Krishna,
my kids play the 10th chapter game.
You wrote a song about it, didn't you? Didn't you?
No, I wrote a song about the 7th
Oh,
chapter.
7th chapter. Similar, yeah, similar stuff.
Knowledge of the absolute.
Knowledge of the absolute. Okay. So Krishna starts, he says, listen, Arjuna, because you are my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I've already explained. Neither the host of demigods, okay, he's going to get into all these characters again, right? Neither the host of demigods, nor the great sages, know my origin or opulences. For in every respect, I'm the source of the demigods and sages. Right? I come before them. I know all about them. They don't know all about me. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme lord of all the worlds, all the different stratas, right? All the different layers. He only, undiluted among men, is freed of all sins. So in other words, when you understand everything correctly, they call this Sambandha again. By the way, I was so frustrated. I was tuning in for our Patreon members, we had that class by Danya called Sambandha that was on Friday. And your connection kept going out on me, Raghunath.
Sorry about that. Welcome to Upstairs.
That's not your fault. But she was really, it was great. Has that been posted yet, Maren? So let's get that posted this week too, maybe today or tomorrow. I'll design a little cover thumbnail art for that for you.
Great.
And we can put that up. But she was getting into Sambandha.
Doing another one Friday also.
Yeah. It was about relationships, but it was, I was from what I did see, I kept getting cut off. Eventually I just had to give up because it was getting cut off like every 5 seconds. But she was speaking about like our modern relationships of this world, but she was doing it from a foundation of Bhagavatam. So she was, she called it Sambandha, and this word Sambandha is what's being described here. Understanding the relationship between two things. It's one thing to understand this subject and not that subject, but then you actually have to understand how they relate to one another. And so it's saying here that if we have this Sambandha Jnana, if we understand that even whatever powerful beings there are, whatever powerful opulences or influences in nature there are, to understand that they may be powerful and influential and extraordinary and fascinating, but they're actually all coming from a source that is the very source of all that's powerful and the very source of all that's fascinating. And that's the root of all existence. And that's called Sambandha Jnana, understanding who I am, what nature is, what all other living beings are, and then how it's all connected to that root, understanding the nature of that relationship. And he says, he only undiluted among men is freed of all sins. Now we've discussed the term sins, in the past. But we don't necessarily have to put it in the Judeo-Christian context here, but we can understand that it means that they're freed from illusion. They're freed from confusion. They're freed from misapplying their energy and their time and their efforts.
That's right? A nice way to put it.
Yeah. When you understand that there's an origin, that there's a root. I'm wasting my effort when I'm trying to water all the leaves of a plant. I'm properly, connected when I'm watering the root of the plant, knowing that that's the best way to serve the entire plant. I'm also a leaf on that plant, right? So always understanding that our energy and our attention and our affection, it's going in so many different directions, right? Michael Jordan today, and this person tomorrow, and this politician, and this, but the wise person understands that these are all just temporary manifestations. Even they may appear powerful or exciting, but they're just a fragment, a tiny fragment of the opulence of that source of everything. And that when my attention is focused there, actually it becomes connected to everything in the most conducive way. So he'll go on, like in text 6, he says, the 7 great sages, and before them, the 4 other great sages, and the Manus, the progenitors of mankind. They come from me, born from my mind. And all living beings populating the various planets descend from them. So I'm behind even the progenitors. They're born from my mind. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in my unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there's no doubt. And then comes the 4 nutshell verses of the Gita.
Before we get there, I was just thinking, like, if you're born in India, when you hear about the Manus, there's book Manu Samhita, or the 4 Kumaras, which you're speaking about. These are like celebrities of the Hindu pantheon or Hindu gods. Everybody knows of Manu. So when you hear about them, oh, they are actually coming from Krishna. He's the actual source of them as well. So I think if you read these verses, but you're sort of unaware of it, it's just like, what name,
Right.
weird name, another weird name, what? But if you think of all the people of this world that we worship of this world, in that case, they're all coming ultimately from God as well, all coming from Krishna as well. So I think we put it in an American context, it might be like more relatable to like Westerners, the greatness that we find in great athletes. And the interesting thing is, Brahma, Manu, the 4 Kumaras, etc., because they're in this spiritual on the spiritual tradition, their greatness is also, there's no ego involved. Like Brahma is so impressive because for all he does, there's no ego involved. We do something in the material sphere, it's generally riddled with ego. I ran this fast, or I did a triathlon, or I'm a great dancer. I'm a great, whatever our material greatness is, it's interwoven with our ego. That's why when you see someone practicing bhakti in a very sincere way, but they have also some material greatness, it's quite beautiful because they're really following in that tradition of Brahma and these great sages who have the material greatness, but they're not owning it as their own. And sort of like that's the reoccurring theme. When the more you read this, the more I'm personally pulling out of this.
Thank you.
I thought I'd share that.
So as that 10th chapter continues, after Krishna saying kind of I'm the origin of all, even the great sages and the progenitors and the devas and so on like that, and then those 4 nutshell verses come where Krishna says Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pavartate, that I'm the source of all the planets, of all the devas, et cetera, et cetera. Then Arjuna says, and these are real important verses, beginning from text 12. Arjuna says, you are this isn't Krishna saying what is Arjuna, but Arjuna is not going to even
text 10.
Text 10, 12, and 13 I'll read right now, then 14. Arjuna is going to say, he's going to say, Krishna, I get it, what you're telling me, that you are the source of all this. But it's not only me, actually all the great sages say this as well, right? This is giving us the perspective of how to understand all this different literature. Because Arjuna is saying, Krishna says it, Narada says it, Vyasa says it, like I'll read. He says, you are the supreme, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. Of all the great sages, such as Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. Please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds.
That's another thing. If you're Indian, you hear that Asita, Devala, Narada, they all accept this. For an American, like, big deal. But imagine if we said, all the last 10 presidents all accept that Krishna is supreme. Or when you hear about people that you might respect, or a sports star that you respect, they respect it. And he's basically giving you reason to believe. They're giving you.
But this is much more than that, though, right? Because it's like, for instance, when you say Vyas, people may read Vyasa's literatures. They may read the Vedas, and they may read the Upanishads and become confused about, is there a supreme source or origin behind it all? Here in the Bhagavad Gita, that's all being cleared up. In Bhagavatam, that's all being cleared up. Because Arjuna is saying, Krishna, you just told it to me, but even Vyasa says this himself. He's the person that wrote all those books, right?
Mm.
So it's coming from all the different directions. Now, Krishna's going to absolutely, kind of like conclude this in the next chapter, where he shows his universal form. So he's not only going to say it, he's going to prove it. He's going to show how everything is coming out of his form to Arjuna and give him the eyes to be able to see it. But after that comes like a whole list of these opulences of Krishna, and a lot of them read like this verse that we read. There's all these great opulences that he has, and all these great beings, the Adityas. Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I'm the radiant sun. Of the Maruts, I'm Marichi. Among the stars, I'm the moon. Of the Vedas, I'm the sun. And he goes on and on.
This is the funnest part of the Bhagavad Gita.
Well, you see, there are two parts of the Gita. There's a great book on the Bhagavad Gita by H.D. Goswami, Hridayananda Maharaj, right?
Yeah.
It's called Bhagavad Gita, a comprehensive guide to the Bhagavad Gita. And I really like so much about his analysis, but he says there's sections in the Gita, especially in the 7th and 10th chapters, where he says there's a list of verses that he calls identity verses. And what he means by that is Krishna says, I am this, I am that, right? I'm the light of the sun and the moon, right? I'm the taste in water. Here he's saying, amongst different groups, when you see the prominent one, you can think of me. Of all the Rudras, I'm Lord Shiva. He'll go on and on. Like this.
Of sages amongst demigods, I'm Narada.
Of the bodies of water, I'm the ocean. Of the generals, I'm Kartikeya.
Of the Pandavas, I am you, Arjuna. And of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring.
Of immovable objects, I am
Himalayas.
That's right.
Keep getting it. Come on.
Of sacrifices, I am
the chanting of the holy name.
Oh, you are good, Raghu. Of all trees, I am
the Ashvata, the banyan.
That's right. I heard you even throwing out the Sanskrit. Of Gandharvas, I am
Chitraleka.
Chitrarata.
Really?
Chitrarata.
Okay, go ahead. Come on. Another
Good,
one.
close.
Another one.
Among perfected beings.
Kapila, the Kapila.
Of horses.
Uchashrava.
Of lordly elephants.
Airavata, Indra's elephant.
Of weapons.
The thunderbolt by Indra.
Of cows.
Sarabi.
Of causes for procreation.
Kamadev, the god of love.
Of serpents.
Vasuki.
Of the many hooded nagas.
Ananta.
Aquatics.
Varuna.
Of departed ancestors.
Aryama.
Okay, I mean, you got that one. I tipped my hat. Right? I wouldn't.
You don't understand. I raised my kids. We would play this since my oldest kids were small. We would play this game, the 10th chapter game. If you've got a partner or a friend, Ellie and Mara can play this today. You just quiz each other, and then we have contests as we're going to school. Of departed ancestors, of perfected beings, of lordly elephants. This is just like a game, and I quiz my kids, and they compete for love.
for your affections.
Guess shlokas win love.
Okay, so now what? This is the point. So there's a long list, especially 10th chapter. It's a long list like this. That the idea is that earlier in the 6th chapter, Arjuna realized, I'm not going to make it as an Ashtanga yogi. I'm not going to make it as a guy that wanders out into the forest and sits alone and keeps bringing his mind back. What do I do now? And Krishna says, well, you know what, Arjuna, that's not a problem, because there's other ways that you can practice yoga. And really, he says that the highest yogi is the one that's always thinking of him within. Mm-hmm. So then the middle 6 chapters, 7 through 12, they're about how the mind can always be brought to God. Even though I might not be this perfect yogi sitting still, and trying to still the mind or off alone in the forest, as I move through this world, everything that I see it can bring my mind to Krishna if I understand that Krishna is the origin of it, right? And so you get these two long lists of what Hridayananda Maharaj calls origin. I'm sorry, he calls them identity verses. I am this, I am that. I'm the light of the sun, I'm the moon, I am all the things that you were just mentioning. Think of me when you think of it, because ultimately it's all my energy. So I am this and I am that. But he says, but we need to be careful to understand that these aren't verses that are like trying to help us understand that some pantheistic idea that like everything is God. Because he says, because in both cases, these verses are between, are sitting between other verses that he calls origin verses, where Krishna explained that I'm the origin of these things. So we saw that at the beginning of this chapter, like I read earlier. And then you get these really beautiful and powerful verses that come at the end of this chapter, chapter 10, where he says, he turns to Arjuna after listing all these powerful, influential things in the world and saying that you can understand that ultimately that's my energy, that I'm behind that. He concludes the 10th chapter by saying, "O mighty conqueror of enemies, Arjuna, there's no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Know," this verse is so powerful and potent here, "know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations
are just a spark of my splendor.
They spring from but a spark of my splendor. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe." And that's the super soul, the Paramama, which we're going to hear more about in following chapters.
Yeah, we see the beauty. We see the beauty of the material world. It's extraordinary. Even the ordinary things are extraordinary. A leaf, a blade of grass, a tree. Ordinary
It's incredible.
Things. Walk by,
Yeah.
you drive by, right? Ants.
Yeah.
Fast, but actually all fast.
Ants are a big topic today.
It's big. It's big. Big news. You know, but we were just studying leaves and how ordinary they are. And the more you study it, the more you realize this leaf is extraordinary. The more you study a leaf, it's extraordinary. The material world is extraordinary to the point where some people say, yeah, the earth is my God, or the sky is my God, or the ocean is so magnificent, it is my God. All the phenomenal things, extraordinary things of this world, it's actually just a spark of Krishna's splendor. All the great things of this world is just it's a sneeze. It's a transcendental sneeze of Lord Vishnu.
Okay, that's one way to put it.
A transcendental sneeze. Spark of his splendor is a little more poetic.
Okay. I just want to, people are asking about the book I've spoken about, but it's a comprehensive guide to Bhagavad Gita by H.D. Goswami.
Mayor, maybe throw that up on the.
I'm going to do it right now.
App board, please. And you know, you got to read this. You got to finish this. We're almost done. And
read the last verse.
No. Oh well, yeah, but
what do you want to finish? What
gets into these weird demigods. Sani Dev, the Lord of the distressful condition. Sitali Devi, the goddess of smallpox. We're gonna miss out on these great.
You know, there's a story, Raghunath. Look at you, you're getting all caught up now. But in that book, Alien Identities,
yeah,
as Sadaputa writes about, he interviews Atma Tattva Das, who as a child saw the smallpox goddess. He had an experience where he saw her.
What?
Yes, I'm telling you.
Who's Indian?
Yeah, he's Indian. Go back and look at that Alien Identities. He saw the smallpox goddess. It's all in there, and it's all true. It's all real.
All right. Well, all glories to the smallpox goddess. May she never shine upon me.
No, you want her to shine upon you.
We want her to shine. Shine your mercy
she
upon
relieves
me.
You.
Oh, goddess. We're in the the beginning of Navaratri. You know that?
Oh, yeah, Navaratri.
To worship Mother, the Mother. So you can meditate on your mother as well. And thanks to everybody for joining us on Monday. We took a weekend off, and we hope you had a transcendental weekend without us. It's Makeover Monday. Get on our Discord thread and write what you're going to do this week to upgrade your life. What you're going to embrace, what you're going to let go of, what you're going to how you want to make this day and this week special. Raising the bar in our life. Thanks for everybody for joining us. We had a big number on Zoom join us today, over 100. And yeah, I want to thank everybody we got to meet in person this week. And it was really incredible that these Zoomers came off the TV screen. Right here. And now it's dance time. You know, I know it seems sort of silly. I was just dancing. No, it's important. It's very important. It's important. Dancing, love, music. You can't quantify these things. Dancing, love, music, they're not of this world. They're from some other realm. That's why it's important at the end of this show. Photo face people, lose the photos. And if you're sitting there sort of like Mara, like pretending like you're like, start clapping your hands. Lori Pag, what do you think this is? A library? Come on.
Mara's sister's spinning around right now.